Well, hello, welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us. Malcolm Ross is a Scottish guitarist, singer, songwriter who got his start playing with the post-punk band Josef K from 1979 to 1981. The band released several singles and an album during their time together. While still in Josef K, Malcolm co-produced the first single by the Edwyn Collins fronted Orange Juice. Then after leaving Josef K, he joined Orange Juice, staying around long enough to play on and release the album Rip It Up in 1982. From there, Mr. Ross played on Aztec Camera's 1984 album Knife. You can also hear his guitar on the track Murder from Blancmange and their album Mange, Tout. Throughout the mid-'80s through the '90s, Malcolm worked with artists like Josef K. Cohort, Paul Haig, Momus, and Barry Adamson, to name a few. He has also worked with his wife Syuzen in a couple of projects, most recent being Buckley's Chance. And let's not forget Malcolm's solo albums, 1995's Lowshot and 1999's Happy Boy. Well, welcome, Malcolm.
Hi.
Thanks for being. Appreciate that.
No bother.
Yeah, go ahead and get hydrated there. Well, talk about where you were born.
Right, I was born in Malawi, or what is now Malawi. At the time, it would have been still a British colony, and it was the protectorate of Nyasaland and Northern Rhodesia.
Oh, okay.
So my father was a missionary for the Church of Scotland out there.
Is that right? How interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you recall how old were you when you relocated to Scotland?
I was just coming up to my 5th birthday when we came back. So yeah, I remember quite a lot about it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about some of the childhood memories growing up in Scotland.
Okay.
As far as, relating to music. Early on, do you remember hearing music in the house?
Yeah, my father was very fond of music. He loved singing. So he used to listen to quite a lot of folk music and also soul music. He had, as a child, there was always, some soul records. There was a good Louis Armstrong album I used to put on, and some folk records. And then we also had things like some classical stuff, but I never really listened to that much. But things like, film soundtracks, Disney soundtracks, stuff.
Yeah.
That was the kind of records that would get played around the house. But my dad would always have the radio on. He would buy Beatles singles and things like that when they came out. So, yeah.
Okay, well, do you come from a musical family at all?
Nobody who's ever done it professionally that I know of in my family. But,
Okay.
yeah.
How about the first single or album that you bought? Can you remember that?
Yeah, the first single I actually went to a shop and bought was "I'm a Believer" by the Monkees.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, so that's quite a good one. The Stepping Stone on the B-side.
Me and my cousins used to play air guitar to that and other Monkees songs.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a mean air guitarist. Speaking of guitar, at what age did you start playing the
I
instrument?
started playing guitar when I was 14, which is quite late, I suppose. I had viola lessons, which I would have started maybe when I didn't really enjoy the viola. It was very strict, having to have your arm in the right position and holding the bow properly. And it seemed like it was part of the whole school thing. So, but I think it did benefit me in the end when I started playing the guitar that I'd had these viola lessons when I was sort of 10 to maybe 12. Yeah.
Was Josef K your first band?
Yeah, completely. And we were all at school together.
Okay.
Ronnie and Davey and I even went to the same, what we would call a primary school, like your first school. So you know, I kind of met them when I was about 7, Ronnie and Davey, and then met Paul when we started high school. It's not like, I mean, the 4 of us were never like great friends at school, or but we knew each other, you know, and just when, well, I would still have been at school with Davey, and Paul and Ronnie left school a couple of years before us. And that's when we sort of started jamming and trying to get things going.
Well, how did the band come together? What were the other influences, the other members' influences they brought to the band?
Well, we were all big Bowie fans. Ronnie had his drum kit set up in the attic of his house, so people would kind of go up there and, you know, try and play and work out songs and things. And Paul was kind of way ahead of everybody else when it came to the guitar. You know, Paul could play whole Bowie songs and Velvet Underground songs. So that was what we started playing, really, Bowie and Velvet songs, maybe do a Stones song or two. And then when Paul and I kind of became friends, we met at this party. I mean, we'd met each other, we kind of got really talking quite intensely at this party when we would both have been 16 or 17. And Marquee Moon by Television had not long come out. So that we both had the album, and we were both kind of saying how great it was, and, you know, and we both played guitar. So that was the sort of seeds got planted, I think, at that meeting.
Right. Yeah. I've heard how influential that Marquee Moon has been.
Yeah, oh, very much so, I think. Yeah.
Well, talk about what were the circumstances that led to you guys opening for the Clash in 1980?
We opened for the Clash. The Clash had this thing that they would like local bands to go on third on the bill wherever they played, just a way to kind of, you know, give people a bit of a hand, I think. Quite a few bands did it. I mean, we went on third with other bands at the time. And then some bands would book tours and wouldn't actually have a support act touring with them. They would just grab local bands. So for a few months, we were the kind of the ones the promoters would go to when they needed a support act for the bigger bands, which was great. You know, I mean, it was great to play in front of, I think it would have been about 3,500 people at the Clash gig.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
quite a people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that, you know, some bands were there to kind of help, you know, give you a jump start, or, you know, because with it being so competitive in the music industry, you know, it's nice that they're willing
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, and also it was a reaction because, you know, lots of bands used to pay to get support tours and things like that back then. I don't suppose they would now, or the record company would pay. So, you know, for the Clash, it was, I think, their way of, you know, not succumbing to that kind of thing. Um, but we supported quite a few big. We supported Magazine, which was good, and the Psychedelic Furs. Trying to think who else. Adam and the Ants. So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah. There was a DJ here that I used. It's called the Rock and Roll Alternative on Sunday nights. That's where I first heard Psychedelic Furs. Love My
Right.
Way. Love My Way.
Right.
And the DJ would say, "Don't call them the P Furs. They don't like that." I don't know where that started. But anyway, do you remember getting signed to Postcard Records? Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, we didn't actually ever sign anything, but yeah, I'd met Stephen, um, the original drummer in Orange Juice, and we got talking. We met at a Syuzen and the Banshees gig. So, and he started saying how he played in this band. He was playing in a couple of bands there at the time, and yeah, so we just swapped phone numbers. And then a couple of weeks later, Edwyn phoned me and said he'd got my number from Stephen and wondered if we'd like to come through and, you know, play a gig with them at the art school in Glasgow. So that's how we met. This kind of postcard. I mean, Postcard Records hadn't started then, but Orange Juice were getting started. and then, you know, they just decided to release their own single, which was the start of Postcard Records. And I think originally the idea was it was just going to release flexi discs. Postcard Records was just going to be a flexi disc label. And then it sort of grew from that, really. And when Alan thought she'd have other bands apart from just Orange Juice,
Yeah, yeah. It's
he
similar
stepped in.
similar to the way Sarah Records, started too. Kind of a
Right.
DIY label,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
nobody
very
really,
much so. Very much
like
so.
you said,
Yeah.
didn't sign any contract per se. Well, of course, "Sorry for Laughing," maybe the band's most noted song.
Yeah.
It was helped years later by Propaganda's cover.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that
Um,
didn't. Go ahead.
Propaganda, one of the guys, when they were more of an alternative band, the original lineup of Propaganda had a version of it which was actually a lot better than the one that came out. Um, you know, they got, I think two of them were either kicked out or left, and they went sort of complete pop. You
Yeah,
know, Paul Morley was pushing that whole
right.
pop thing. So, but that band, you know, that act, they're called Nouvelle Vague. They do, they came out maybe about 20 years ago now, but they do like sort of bossa nova covers of punk rock songs.
Oh, is that right? No, no. How do you spell it?
It's like Nouvelle Vague, new wave in French,
Oh,
Nouvelle.
Nouvelle. No, no. I'll look in.
Is that wave? Vague, Vague. So they did a cover of Sorry for Laughing as well, which was
Oh, is
good.
that right? I
Yeah,
wonder if that's on YouTube or yeah, probably is.
I would imagine. Yeah, yeah,
I'll go check that out. I'd like to
yeah.
hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But while you were still with Joseph K, right? You co-produced and played on Orange Juice's first single, "Falling and Laughing."
Yeah, I mean, I think they brought me along. Just I had some experience in the studio, and that Joseph K had maybe spent 3 days in the studio up until then, um, and yeah, just to kind of give them a hand, really. Uh, I mean, the guitar I play is tiny, just that wee sort of increasing thing at the start of the record on the intro.
Right.
But also played a bit on, I played some synthesizer on Simply Thrilled Honey,
Oh,
the
okay.
third single, and
Oh,
helped with the production on that as well.
okay. All right. All right. So you were kind of maybe getting your foot in the door a little bit there. Um,
Yeah, yeah, um,
well, after leaving Joseph K, you joined Orange Juice,
yeah,
and that was after the "You Can't Hide Your Love Forever" album, right?
yeah. It'd been recorded, it hadn't been released. Yeah,
Oh, okay, it had already been released. Well, let me
yeah,
ask first, are you still in touch with Edwyn?
yeah. I mean, I haven't seen him since before the lockdown, so that's yeah, that's right. It must be January 1920. The last last time we played in Edinburgh.
Okay.
But yeah, it was, you know, yeah, good friends. I mean, Edwin's a very good friend of mine.
Well, how's he doing? I wanted to ask how he's
Oh,
doing.
he's good. He gets better all the time. You know, it really is quite an amazing
Good.
phenomenon, really, how he recovered from what was a
Right.
catastrophic stroke. You know, it
Exactly.
wasn't. You know, I know some people have strokes and you wouldn't know it kind of 3 or 4 days later. But Edwin, you know, and then he had brain surgery twice. So, yeah, yeah,
Right. And that was what, 2005, I believe. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
Well, that's good. That's good that he is recovering. I hope he gets back to, almost full recovery at least, Hope he gets.
Well, it's one side of his body is never going to really function. You know, it was lost. But I mean, he deals with it amazingly well. And his singing continues to improve, which is great.
There you go. That's the main thing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But okay, well, I wanted to ask about that. Well, "Rip It Up" was the first Orange Juice song I heard.
Right.
In fact, I want to show you. I still have the single, the 45.
All right.
There
Great.
you go.
Yeah.
I kept all my 45s. I did, and then
Yeah.
on the back, there's Malcolm. Get it
Yep.
there. There
Yep.
he is, right? And then you're wearing the Orange Slice shirt, yeah, right
Uh,
there. And then I believe is that John Fogerty of Creedence Clearwater picture up in
Yeah,
the upper.
yeah, it is.
I
Yeah.
thought it was because he's got the flannel shirt, and he was
Uh,
well known for that. So anyway, there we go. Still have
yeah,
it.
he was a big inspiration for Edwyn. Well, I mean, that
Is
was
that
when Edwyn and I became friends. We were both Creedence fans. And,
Creedence? Okay. Well, I know it's fairly commercial sounding, but the follow-up single, "Flesh of My Flesh," I like that's a flugelhorn, right, on that one?
yeah, that's right.
Okay, okay, because it sounds very similar to the trumpet, you know.
Kind of
But
rounder, softer sound than the trumpet flugelhorn. Yeah,
okay, but I noticed on the credits it was, and I like that. I like that addition on that song.
yeah.
Um, and so you only played on that album, right? The Rip It Up album, is that right?
No, I played on, well, I think it's called a mini album, Texas Fever. It
Okay.
was like the third, it was going to be the third Orange Juice LP, and then it got kind of cut short, and David and I left the band while
Okay.
we were recording it. Yeah.
Okay. And
But it's actually, I mean, I'm very proud of Texas Fever. I think I find it a bit of a shame, really, that was the main reason David and I left, because Edwyn sort of said, I'm really not happy with how the recording's going here. I wanted to stop recording, and I'm going to try and write some more songs that are better than these songs. And David and I kind of had thought that really where it was going was pretty good. So yeah, that was the schism. Yeah.
so that was the disagreement there, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, you hear that over the course of many a band.
Yeah.
Well, you were how were you invited to play on Aztec Camera's Knife album?
Uh, well, I was friends with Roddy and Campbell from, when they, because I went into the studio with them for their postcard single as well, when Just Like Gold and We Could Send Letters, their first single on Postcard Records.
Okay,
Um, and I think I play, maybe it's an auto harp or something on We Could Send Letters. Um, so, we continued this friendship, Roddy and Campbell and I, and they were doing some gigs, and Roddy liked to have a second guitar player when they played live. So he asked me if I would do some gigs, and it just kind of went on from there. Um, it seemed a bit, it's not the favourite piece of work I've played on Knife. I mean, there's some great songs in it, but I didn't like the production. I didn't like the way it was recorded. Everything. I'd never worked on an album before where everything was recorded so separately, to the point that even some of the drums were recorded separately. Like, rather than playing the full kit, they would record the bass drum part and then the snare part. And
really,
yeah,
wow, that's rare. Yeah, that's different.
yeah. I mean, that was the height of that time when engineers just were, you know, um, had just completely gone away from any idea of recording an actual performance.
Okay,
It was all down to just the sound, and suppose you do still get a performance, but yeah. So, but I found it very, what's the word? It's sorry, I can't think of the word, like germ free. What would that be? Anyway, yeah. And also, Roddy is such a good guitar player that when you're in the studio and you're not playing as a band in the studio, it seemed a bit daft for, I would, some of my parts were good. I think I got one compliment from Mark Knopfler the whole 6 weeks we were in the studio with him, for the part I played on the actual track Knife. And
Yeah. Well,
I suppose it's a bit, you're in the studio with Mark Knopfler and Roddy, and you're a guitar player, which kind of.
right? That kind of everybody else kind of takes a back seat a little bit, but yeah. Well, talk about some of the gigs you played, with Aztec Camera.
Yeah,
Did you
well,
support?
we did a lot of touring. Yeah,
Oh,
and it
okay,
was that was really enjoyable. You know, the band was really good.
that worked.
It was a great band to be part of. Um, you know, Dave and Campbell were a great rhythm section, and Roddy's material was so fantastic. So no, it was a real pleasure.
Oh man, my favorite I think all time is a Walk Out to Winter.
Right,
Yeah, just especially the extended version. Yeah,
right, yeah,
but you mentioned, I mean, there's a couple of three tracks on there. All I Need Is Everything and Still on Fire,
yeah,
and Knife. I keep going back and listening to that epic 9 minute, you know.
right, yeah,
But yeah, the title track
yeah.
is quite.
I'll tell you, there's a song that called "The Back Door to Heaven,"
Yes, yes,
right, and that could have been a really, or is a really great song. But again, when Mark Knopfler started producing it, he changed the arrangement on that one completely, changed the feel. And you can actually find it. There's a thing on YouTube. I think it's a live concert in Birmingham that was recorded by the BBC, and there's a version of "The Back Door to Heaven" on that, and it's worth checking out if you're interested. It's like how Roddy first envisaged the song. You know,
okay.
it's a lot kind of grungier, and it works really well.
All
Um,
right. How young was he when he first started out? He was very young, wasn't
yeah,
he?
well, he was 16 when I first met him, Roddy. So yeah, and now would have been 19. So, but
Yeah,
at the time, that seemed like quite a big difference. Yeah.
right, 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 exactly. Well,
And
you
I
do.
try, Roddy's a bit of a recluse, but I try and keep in touch with him. I saw him this year, actually, back in April when I was in London. So
Yeah,
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 he's doing well, still writing songs.
yeah. There's I have sent out tons and tons of requests. Some are their own websites, and then others are through Facebook. That's the only way I can find
Yeah,
people. But I sent one to him, of course, a while back. And most you never hear back from. But
uh,
you know, just keep trudging on, and
yeah.
um, I like
Thanks.
with yourself, you hit
But
you hit somebody just right. Yeah, go ahead.
he's very reclusive,
Right,
Roddy, nowadays. I mean, really, um,
right.
you know, which is fine. That's what he does. It's how he is.
Yeah, I totally get that. That it's not for everybody. I totally get that. Some
Yeah,
some prefer written interviews.
yeah,
They're not real good in front of the camera, and I was like, to me, that's like, wow, that's kind of weird because if you play live, I mean, your face is there in front of people.
yeah,
But maybe it's just being one on one. Maybe that.
yeah.
Maybe that. I don't. I don't. I don't know. Could be. We'll talk about. You worked with your wife Syuzen in a couple of projects.
Yeah,
Uh, First, talk about the high B's a little bit.
right. I mean, that was a side project when I was playing an Aztec Camera originally.
Okay.
I mean, Susan's a really great singer, so we've always, made a bit of music together. You and that was like, original material. We were writing material for that, and um, can't remember why it stopped happening. It just kind of petered out, but it was never meant to be a kind of your career move or anything. It's just a kind of wee thing that was fun to do. We released that one single and played quite a few concerts, which were good.
Yeah.
Um, and then Buckley's Chance, the act, well, it's been going for about 20 years. That's a covers band, really. That's just,
Oh,
we play in bars and things around Edinburgh, play at, I mean, unfortunately, the drummer died um, a couple of years back. So we've never actually, well, we did perform once, just two songs with another drummer at this event that was a celebration of Ian's life. The drummer was Ian Stoddart, who played in that band Win. Win? You heard of them? Davy
uh,
Henderson from the Fire Engines
fire engines. Yeah, yeah.
and Russell. Davy's next act was called Win. and
Okay.
Ian was the drummer. Syuzen went to school with Ian. So he sadly died, so we actually we've not been really active since then, but we probably will be again.
All right. Yeah, when I first looked up Buckley's Chance, it's actually a movie too.
It's an Australian expression.
Right, right,
And it
right.
means you've got, in Australia, people will say, oh, you've got Buckleys, meaning
Okay,
you've got no chance at all. But my
okay.
wife's maiden name is Buckley,
Yes, yes.
and her brother plays guitar in the band as well, so he's another Buckley. So that's why we
Okay.
decided to
I,
call it
I
Buckley's
noticed that,
Chance.
and I thought, well, he's not involved in this movie, I don't think. And it isn't set in the Australian outback. This movie
Yeah,
came out
it's
2021. 20, yeah,
it's
yeah.
maybe see the expression comes from a convict whose name was William Buckley.
Okay.
He escaped and he swam across a bit of a kind of inlet of the sea, which was notoriously shark infested. So people used to say, well, you've got about as much chance as William Buckley. But he
Oh,
actually survived it. He lived with the native Australian people for
yeah.
about 10 years and then kind of came back. Um, so it's just an expression. But an Australian person, they all know if you say, oh, you've got Buckley's or you've got Buckley's chance, it means you've got no, it's like saying you've got no chance.
No chance. I like,
Yeah.
see, I like little side stories like that too. And the viewers do as well. So yeah,
Good.
thanks for sharing that. Well, and then I believe it was the same year, 84, on Mange 2. Of course, I had to look at the pronunciation on that. Mange
Yeah.
2.
Yep.
Uh, the murder track, which is a nice one. I like that one. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
how did you feel about that?
When Orange Juice had our hit single, when Rip It Up had been a hit, we ended up doing some weird promotional things for it. One of which it was Capital Radio, which is the big radio station in London, or it was at the time. I don't think it still exists. They had a kind of Christmas event. So there was all these kind of like teenage girls in this big nightclub, and you didn't actually perform. You just went on and they played the record. You kind of there was a live mic,
Uh,
so all just so like we were on it. You know that it was just all the bands who were in the charts at the time, or loads of them would get taken to this nightclub and just go on and kind of a personal appearance. I think it's called. We didn't do many. I think Blancmange did a few more, but Blancmange had lots of hit singles. So anyway, we became sorry. Um,
sorry.
that's where we met Neil and Stephen doing this personal appearance thing in London, and we just hit it off really. Got on with them well and started socialising. And so David and I, because David plays bass on that as well on Murder.
Yes,
David
right,
Simon
right,
from Orange Juice. Yeah.
right.
And the collaboration was, going to continue, but it didn't.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that earlier. Well, talk about where am I? Here I am. I'm found now. I wanted to revisit your solo albums for a bit,
Right.
if we could. Uh,
Sure.
and I know this is not going to come through real well, but I showed it to you. I sent you a snapshot of that of
Yeah.
your first. Yeah, yeah. Okay, just for the viewers,
Right.
you get that
Right.
glare. Yeah, there you go. Low shot, low shot. Mine is interesting. It doesn't say low shot. Low shot is the first track, but
Yeah.
it
Well, it
just
was released. It was called. It's kind of got a diff. Is that on the bus stop label? Is it? Oh no.
yes,
What?
it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
called Lowshot in Europe. In Europe, it came out on a German label called Marina Records, and
Right.
they wanted to call it Lowshot. I wasn't really, so that's why it gets called Lowshot for all.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you worked with two or three different backing groups on that. Was was
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I spent a couple of months in New York. What year would that be? That'd be 1993. Um, where I recorded maybe five of the songs that are on it, five or six. And I did a few gigs when I was in New York. So, I went over and got a band together. Luckily, most of the people I knew in New York were all musicians. So Stephen Daly, who I mentioned earlier, the original Orange Juice drummer, he played the band I got together. He was the drummer. Robert Vickers, who was the Go-Betweens bass player, he played bass. And an American guy called Spike Priggin played the other guitar. And so half of it was recorded in New York with those guys. And then I went back to London and went into Edwyn's studio and recorded with a band which I'd been kind of working with, and we were called the Magic Clan, with Davey Weddle, who was Joseph K's bass player, and the guy called Paul Mullinan on drums.
Yeah.
So that's why. And then that cover version I do of that Gene Clark song, that Tried So Hard, that's with this like country band that I used to play with in London as well.
Yes.
Right.
And that was the what was here? I got it right here. Well, you remember it was the Stone Rangers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Stone Rangers. Had to look at that. Yeah, I like that. I was going to mention that. I've always liked Gene Clark's solo material. I think he's very underrated.
Yeah.
Once he left the Byrds, I think he had some personal problems and drugs and whatnot, but I think it was very, very much underrated. Glad you did cover that. I like.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's a really great song.
And of course, the addition of the pedal steel,
Yeah,
really makes that. I love that when groups use that.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, of course, your vocals, and you've probably been told this before, very reminiscent of Edwyn's.
Right.
And it's probably just rubbed off on you being around him for so long.
Yeah, quite likely. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Which is not a bad
also,
thing.
we're kind of, we're physically similar. We have quite similar accents. So it's kind of quite likely to happen. Yeah.
But I do like the title track, Lowshot. That's a nice way to start the album off. With a nice rocking, driving rhythm. I like that one as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the ones from New York, isn't it? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I think it is. Yes. And then I like the guitar on One More Day. I like that.
Right. Yeah.
That's another one.
Thanks.
Really good. Jumping ahead to 1999's Happy Boy.
Yeah.
This album, it has a different feel. In places it's more jazzy, laid back, and even exotic.
Yeah, I was trying to. The guy who produced it, Dominic Murcott, he had, it was kind of part of the agreement for him to produce it was that he had quite a big say in how things. So it was kind of like a collaboration with him, which I'm always happy to do because it's I'm not really a songwriter the way Edwyn or Roddy are songwriters. I mean they can't help but write songs really, whereas I'm more a guitar player who'll write the odd song, and usually I prefer it if I'm collaborating with somebody. There's some songs I've written all on my own, but mostly it'll be with somebody. It'll be a bit of a collaboration. So sorry, I can't remember where I was getting to with that. So anyway, it was quite a big collaboration with Dominic on the, and I kind of liked the sound of the records, the very,
it's varied.
Not a lot of frills on it, it's kind of good.
Right.
Trying to keep it quite minimal, really.
Right. That comes through on the title track. The beginning sounds a lot like exotic, Les Baxter, Martin Denny material. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did used to see when I recorded that album. I just finished doing a degree in music at Goldsmiths College in London. So my kind of musical references have been widened considerably, because when you were doing the degree, it was kind of like either you had to study and try and play jazz or classical music, and I didn't really play either, so I went with jazz. So yeah, you can hear the kind of jazz influences are there, and there's like stand-up bass and things like that, and as well.
Yes, you do. And that vibraphone.
Yeah.
That's
well, see, Dominic's a percussionist. He's a very good drummer.
uh,
He was a drummer in the Stone Rangers as well. He plays the vibraphone as well, tuned percussion. So yeah, it was good fun working with him. And
yeah, I kept waiting to hear some of the birds, the macaws, and all that. Coming in like on Quiet Village.
all right, yeah. Well, you get Kookaburra right at the end.
Yeah, there you go. You get to add some of that in there. Anyway, but lunch break. I like the spoken words on that one, and that's a nice jazzy track too. And especially the line, even in a world where pretty well everything except peace of mind can be bought and sold. I love that. That's so true. I mean, it's right on. The guy's shopping during his lunch break.
Yeah.
That was effective, very effective.
Thanks. Yeah. And it's Barry Adamson speaking it, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay. I noticed that it was, I kept listening. I said, no, it doesn't have much of a Scottish accent there.
No, that's, we've got Barry recorded him on the phone.
That's why. Yeah, it has that sound. Yeah, that's really, really well done. Real well done. Well, I want to ask you too about this, about Chocolate. You and Johnny Depp, you playing alongside Johnny. How good of a guitarist is Johnny?
Very good. Very good. Because when I was kind of briefed on the job, the guy who was the music supervisor on the film, Bob Last, he was saying, now you might have to kind of give him some guitar lessons. And of course, when, as soon as I met him, he was, he's as good a guitar player as me. So, there was no need for me to give him any guitar lessons. And he'd also brought a guitarist over from Hollywood with him in case he needed guitar lessons. So, it was interesting.
So if acting hadn't worked out for him, he would have had another career to go into, probably.
Yeah, well, I think he left Florida and went to Hollywood because he was in a band. I think that's how he ended up in Hollywood, and then the acting sort of happened after that. Although he was kind of a child actor, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So, or a teenage actor anyway. Yeah. But no, he's a very good guitar player. I mean, he plays now with, what's that band he's in just now?
He does play with that.
Is it like Ronnie Wood's in it and people like that? I think what they call. They've been doing gigs here anyway.
Yeah, he does. I know he gets a real warm reception every time he goes over there. To the UK. The fans really eat him up. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You just brought up Barry Adamson, and doing the phone conversation on that. It's interesting doing these interviews, finding those connections and common threads. You playing as part of his backing band. When was that?
Well, I've done it on and off a few times. When it would have been originally in the early 90s.
Okay.
And then, right up to, I think we probably last did a gig with Barry maybe about 2008, 2007, something like that. His band changes quite a lot. And I played on the album As Above, So Below, it's called.
Okay.
Which I think was 1997, maybe, or no. Anyway, around then, the 90s something. Sorry. Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, I think Barry is a really fantastic artist. He's a great musician and has some great ideas. I've always really enjoyed working with him.
And his film music and that. Were you aware that I talked with him back in May?
No, no.
Okay,
How did that go?
go back to my channel
Yeah, I'll
and
have a look at that. Yeah.
and go back. It was May, I think early May sometime, but go down and watch that. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
He was nice enough to grant me some time too.
Oh,
So
good. Yeah.
and then here is another coming up to another connection here. Um, 2015's Big Gold Dream documentary.
Yeah.
I'm always tempted to say New Gold Dream, which of course was the Simple Minds
Yeah.
album, which is
Yeah.
Scottish
Ah.
as well, you know.
Well, Big
But
Gold Dream was the Fire Engines. That was a Fire Engine song. Big Gold Dream.
yes,
Yeah. I don't know which one came first. I think the Fire Engines.
probably the Fire Engines.
Yeah, I think so.
Again, that second connection, I did a written interview with Vic Goddard earlier this year.
All right. Right.
So, I'll give you that when we're done. Give you
Yeah.
that link, and you can read that. He's a very very talkative, very
Yeah, he's a very, yeah, I'm a big admirer of Vic's as well. He's really, he's written some great songs over the years.
yes, he has. So
Yeah.
you can check that one out as well. Did you enjoy being a part of the film, that documentary?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was good that Grant McPhee, the guy who directed the film, um, it was a real labour of love for him, you know, because he was obviously very young and he worked away in it off and on for about 10 years, you know, doing interviews. And I think he interviewed me twice. I think there was an 8-year gap in between the two interviews um, because he just kept learning more. He kind of thought, you know, he was like a film student and he was kind of interested in sort of post-punk Scottish music or alternative Scottish music from the, you know, from that period. And then when he started looking into it, you know, just kind of got wider and wider and wider, all the different bands and people he thought he should talk to. And I kind of think it's been good for that whole period was, you know, well documented, you know,
Yeah,
just for posterity. And I think he did a really good job.
yeah. That's what I was going to ask you. You think it, was a good representation of the burgeoning music scene?
Yeah, yeah, I think, well, you know, everyone gets their say about it, you know. It's sad that there is so little footage from that period. I mean, there's no film of Joseph K playing live at all. There's a very small bit of film of us playing live that you can barely see us in the dark. And then we're mimed to Sorry for Laughing on that Belgian TV show. That's the only, you know,
I'll definitely have to check that out. I have to, yeah,
the,
find. Yeah,
the only video clips there are of us. And, you know, there's very little of the original Orange Juice as well. It's a
yeah,
shame.
I know, I know. Well, yeah. Did you? I forgot to ask you about some of the live shows with Joseph K. Did you go down pretty well? Um,
We started to, yeah, not at first. You know,
right.
when we were first starting, like say supporting the Clash, we didn't go down well that night. You know, the Clash had a very young teenage had a very kind of blinkered view of what punk rock was, which
Yeah.
we would have been meeting by that time. You know, they all had leather jackets and black jeans and spiky hair. You know, which was, you know, if there's anything punk rock seemed to be about to me, it was like removing the need for people to have uniforms. You know, but
Right.
it soon evolved and everyone was just wearing the punk rock uniform. So that was always a good experience to play, and you know, there's always a few people like you, so it's always worth doing. And then, but I remember the first time we were opening for the Scars. I don't know if you remember, they were another
Yes, I've heard
Edinburgh
that. Yes,
post
the
punk
Scar.
band, and we were opening for them in London. And the place we were playing, which was called just the Venue at Victoria, had a big curtain, you know. And Syuzen used to sometimes sing a song or two with Joseph K. So Syuzen was singing the first song, our cover version of Alice Cooper's Apple Bush. Um,
Okay.
and the curtains opened, and like the whole crowd was like packed down the front, and they all started cheering when the curtains opened. And it's just like I thought, oh, this is different. That was the first time, you know. We would do good gigs sometimes and kind of win the crowd over, but this time it was like we'd done it. You know, just when the curtains opened, they were already cheering. So yeah. So and after that, then for the brief period we continued, it was the gigs were successful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But do you still hear from fans of Joseph K? Early on?
Not much, really. No, no. You'll get the odd person who'll say that, a long time ago now.
Yeah. And you have to the odd is the operative word there, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You have
probably.
to be pretty
Probably.
odd. No,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I'm
yeah.
just kidding. Well, how about from Orange Juice fans? Do you hear from them?
Yeah, because orange juice, yeah, there's a kind of a generation of people who I think Orange Juice were quite an important band for, you know,
Yeah.
um, people who are maybe, be in their late 50s now, mid 50s. Um, yeah, I mean, one of the good things I thought about Postcard Records, both Joseph K and Orange Juice, was, there was no machismo about the bands at all. Or, yeah, I mean, we were male, obviously, so you get a bit, but we were really consciously didn't, try to take things away, get away from that kind of idea of being a band of like, getting completely wasted and looking for groupies and things like that. None of that occurred with the postcard record bands. So,
That's
and people, I think a lot of people um, caught on to that. A lot of, it was good. There was always a lot of females at Orange Juice concerts. We weren't at all a kind of male band. It wasn't all like guys with check shirts and leather jackets and things like that.
right.
A lot of women and
Yeah. Well, I think that had to do with your subject matter too, what you're
yeah,
singing.
definitely. Well, Edwyn's songs, yeah, the things
Yeah.
Edwyn wrote about, yeah, yeah, showed a
Yeah.
kind of sensitivity and
There you.
and and it was kind of brave at the time of Edwyn, because even people would hate when Orange Juice first started. People would kind of abuse us in the streets sometimes. Some guys would say, ah, punks, bloody punks. And then punks would abuse you as well because you weren't, just calling the band Orange Juice at the time was quite, because like I was saying, punk soon became pretty kind of macho and stupid.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe a little bit twee before twee was twee.
Yeah, yes.
They,
Oh, it was a bit twee, but not. That's the thing I've always found. I won't talk
yeah.
about bands in particular, although lots of them come from Glasgow. But the whole kind of emphasis on the tweeness, I've never, because it wasn't meant to be
No.
twee in a kind of really silly, childish way, and the way that gets kind of taken and kind of magnified by some bands that followed on from Orange Juice in Scotland, I've always found really quite. Um, I haven't
Yeah.
liked that much.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, how it grew. It just blossomed, from Scotland. And then when people or executives and music press started noticing it in England,
Yeah,
the postcard scene, you know, I thought that was, and then it just started to grow. I knew
yeah,
that something big was happening, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then, as far as, do you still get, comments about people about you talking about your own material? Do you get?
Um, you get the odd person, not many, not many. Neither of those albums sold particularly well. They kind of did okay. They, made their money back and things like that. But I mean, that's kind of one of the main reasons I've never done another one.
Well, I'll confess, I'm the odd person. Yeah, I am
Right,
the
right. Ah, good. Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, that's one of the things about the times we live in with the internet and everything, which is so good, is that people all around the world can connect. on things they like, you know. So.
Right, right. It is, and I'm sure you remember when you first started out how much more difficult to do
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. And just to get information about, like, you know, I was saying when I first met Edwyn, one of the things we had in common was we both liked Creedence Clearwater Revival. I mean, I knew really very little about them, and there was no way of finding out things about, you know, back, what year would that have been, 1978? I mean, even if you went to a good library, you wouldn't find a book, or maybe there would be one, you know, none of these kind of rock encyclopedias had come out yet or anything. So, you know, it was very different. It's funny, you know, because like I have two sons who are in their 20s, and, you know, if they become interested in an old band, they can know everything about them within half an hour, just
Right.
by Wikipedia, and they can listen to their different, you know, it's just all there. At
Right.
the
It's a
flick of the switch.
yeah,
Whereas, you know, I knew Bad Moon Rising and Proud Mary.
yeah,
I don't think I'd ever seen a Creedence Clearwater album. You know, I would
yeah.
buy the singles in, like, you know, charity stores.
Right.
Um, you know, yeah,
It's brought made the world smaller. It's brought us kind of together.
yeah,
So that's the upside of technology. There's
yeah,
definitely the
yeah,
downside of it
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
When you lose, there was a kind of something quite romantic and mysterious about bands in those days when you didn't
there
really know
you
anything
go.
about them. You
There
know,
you hit it right on the head, Malcolm. That's
yeah,
the thing that I kind of miss.
yeah,
Yes, I do. I do. Like
yeah,
you said, we're too spoiled these days. And just it's right there. Everything. You know,
yeah,
you lose some of that, the mystique, the mystery. Yeah,
yeah.
and
Oh,
going
definitely.
out. Yeah, and going out and buying. When I was buying 45s like that and albums. And
Yeah.
it just made you, hungry for that. And finding out and reading the liner notes and all that
Yeah,
kind of.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So
Yeah,
a lot of that's
and getting the music papers. I mean, I used to read the New Musical Express and Melody
there.
Maker, you know, cover to
Maybe
cover. You know,
I know
you
so many
know,
fans are just waiting for that to come out. It's like
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
reading in there. So yeah, it definitely has its upside. Like you said, I wouldn't be doing this with you if
yeah,
it weren't
that's right.
technology, but um, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a good thing. It's been a good all in
Okay.
all,
Well, it's there now. It's nothing we can do.
right? And this will be there too for posterity
That's right.
uh,
Yeah.
for people, and we'll see what kind of response and reaction and comments. That's what I always enjoy.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
getting to see what people say and feedback. And
Yeah.
it's good. You know, but I appreciate you doing this. And see here if I didn't have anything else. No. Anything? Let me in closing. What's keeping you busy? I know you're a taxi driver. What
Yeah.
any
Well, no,
other?
I'm still playing. Yeah, I've been working with a singer who's based here in Edinburgh called Josef Malik. It's kind
Okay,
of like sort of modern soul music, really. But he's got a really great voice, and he's got some good songs. So you could check him out. Also, um, Davy Henderson, who's the singer of the Fire Engines, who I've been friends with for whatever, must
okay,
be getting on for half a century soon. Um, uh, I'm going to be, playing a bit of guitar with him. He's working on some new material, and he'd been kind of getting together with him. Yeah, Buckley's Chance might do. So yeah, I mean, I'm still musically active. Russell, who was the drummer in the Five Engines, who's another great friend of mine, he has a band just now called Scorpio Leisure.
okay.
So I've been kind of doing a bit of writing with him for them. I don't perform live with them, but I'll do some recording and writing with them. And yeah, so yeah, plenty happening. It's good.
You
Keeps
have
me keeps me
do you
going.
have your own recording studio there?
No, no, I've never done that. I find it really quite hard to work in the house. I've never liked working
Yeah,
in my home. It's
Yeah.
too distracting. I'd rather.
Right.
Russell has a studio which is about a 15-minute walk from my house.
Okay.
So if I need to use a studio, I will go up there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's right there. Yeah. Not far.
And just one person I'd kind of name check who people
Okay.
might, if they're interested, like to check out, is an Australian singer called Dave Graney, who I've worked with since the late 80s. He was in an Australian post-punk band called the Moodists.
The
And
Buddhist.
then the Moodists, yeah.
Oh, the
And
mood. Sorry, Moodist. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and then when they split up, he started a kind of solo career, and he was based in London. I met him when I was living in London, so was he. And but if he comes over to play dates in Europe, I usually play with him, things like that. So and,
Yes, I've heard of. I don't think I have anything by the Moodist, but I have heard of the band. Yeah.
they've got some great stuff, yeah, and some of Dave's solo stuff's great as well. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've always worked with him, and I hope I will again at some
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Formed in. Yeah. Dave Graney, 1980 started. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll be on the lookout. And
Yeah.
thanks for that. That's what I was going to ask you too. If you wanted to give any more shouts out to anybody, anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's all I can think of, really, Greg. Thanks.
Okay. All right. You'll always. I do this too. After it's.
Yeah, I'll think, oh, I should have said that. I should have said that. That's right.
That's human. I think human nature.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Malcolm.
No, thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm glad it has, and
yeah,
I like to, you know, kind of hit the record button and kind of let you guys just, talk and
yeah,
interject whenever necessary. But,
yeah,
it's more of a, just like to hear about your life through music, and
yeah.
it's always interesting. And I
Great,
think that's what'll, a lot of these
great.
stories definitely people will find interesting. And
Right. Okay, so
all right, all
is that
righty,
answered?
well. All right, and you got two homework assignments when you can fit them in.
Yeah,
The Vic Goddard written, and I will send you the link to that,
yeah,
and then
please do.
Barry
Yeah.
Adamson on my.
I'll have a look at Barry. Yeah, he's an interesting guy, Barry. I don't know if you've read his book.
There you go, and you might you might post a comment on that too, or
Yeah, yeah.
send him a
Okay.
person. All right, all right. Well, thank you again, Malcolm,
No
and
bother. Thanks a million, Greg. Yeah.
we'll be in
And good
touch.
luck with it all. Good luck. I'll keep having a look at your site. It's great.
All right. And I'll send you the link once I get it edited, and you can post it on your, social, and, let
Right.
everybody know.
Okay. Thanks a lot, man. Right.
All right.
Take care now. Bye bye.
All right.